welcome to the next video. So in the background here, this is my current character, which is an Instaking Wonder, which is what mainly the video is going to be about. This is just a showcase of a 5 orb Delirium map, tier 16, with some sextants and stuff like that. It's not super juiced. I mean, I did get 13 reward tiles, so it's pretty much as juiced as it can be, but I didn't have like the perfect sextant and stuff like that. It's more so just like a showcase. This build obviously can do 5 orb maps pretty easily, since it's a pretty expensive build. Now before getting into it, going over my PUB and stuff, what have I been up to in the league? So after my minor, I ended up selling off the character since I wasn't really looking to boss anymore. And then my plan was to make a mapping build. Now at first I didn't want to spend all my mirrors and stuff like that instantly. I wanted to just make a decent build and farm some more. So I made a Blade Vortex character. Now I didn't make a video about it because I mean it's just Blade Vortex, like everyone knows how to play it pretty much. There's a lot of variations of it, but I pretty much just tried going for a kind of cheap, not too expensive build, and in reality I didn't like it that much since I'm used to playing Blade Vortex super juiced up and playing it like kind of half and half. I just wasn't feeling it too much, but I still managed to farm quite a bit of money with it, even without playing too much, since I think a lot of the gear that I crafted for it ended up going up in value since a lot more people started rolling Blade Vortex to do 5 orb maps. Now after that, I had this idea even before the Blade Vortex character. I wanted to make a very min-max character this league that I can just dump a ton of mirrors into, and I thought about Instaker. Now I originally started this like pretty much right after the minor video, but the issue was with crafts being so much rarer and people not having bulk crafts for sale, of course, since you can only store 10. And on top of that, crafts being just way more expensive than they were in Harvest. Crafting is actually so much more expensive. Trying to remake like Harvest characters that had, if you had like a character that had 5 mirrors of crafting in Harvest, you're probably looking at spending like 15 mirrors to get the same in here. So at first it threw me off. It was like, it's probably unrealistic to get many crafts and stuff to get the gear to like super min-maxed. But eventually I was like, hey, I have so much money doing nothing with it. There's no point to just keep having mirrors and not using them. So I was like, I'll just start rolling the int character and see where I get. And it turns out I got pretty far since pretty much for like a week and a half, I think I barely mapped. I just been crafting and flipping and stuff like that, and just pretty much theorizing this character and crafting gear for it, since it's really good gear that pretty much doesn't exist in the server, so I had to self-craft it all. And it takes quite a while buying the crafts and stuff for some of these items that I'll go over later. Now, before going in-game and in the POB to go over the items and stuff like that, just one thing, since I had quite a few people PM me about the build, and pretty much the most asked question is, can I do this on a budget? Since of course not everyone has this many mirrors lying around just to craft items with. Now the answer is yes and no. Now technically you can do any build on a budget, you just go for less damage and stuff like that. Now, in my opinion, I don't think attribute stackers will feel too great on a super budget. I haven't played them on a super budget, so it's hard to say for me, but then I had some people tell me that they've invested, you know, X amount of exiles and it doesn't feel too great. Usually talking about very budget, so what I tell them usually is just make sure you have the basics down. So it's an attack based build, so you want to have capped accuracy, very important. It's a crit based build, so you want to have high crit chance. It doesn't necessarily need to be capped, but just pretty high. Just stuff like that you definitely want to do. Using a curse, I advise Sniper's Mark for this build, helps a lot with boss damage as well. So just get the basics down first, and then after that you can slowly upgrade your gear, get more int, get more ES, stuff like that, and it should get better. Now on a budget, if you're just looking to map, I think it should be fine, but if you're really looking to one-shot bosses, you definitely need quite a bit of DPS for that. Another big thing I'll mention now actually quickly as well is if you're lacking damage, probably the biggest way to get it is from attack speed jewels. Scales a lot on this build, so that's just a tip right there. So here we are in game to go over the gear and the tree and stuff like that. I have some Mavens here because I was doing Maven. At the end of the video I'm going to show a Maven fight, an Uber Elder and an Awakener. So if you want to see this thing at target, skip to that, but I pretty much one-shot the bosses. Which you would expect with this much investment into a character. As for the stats, almost 13k ES, I have 1.8k int. Mind you, this is all with Headhunter. For those that don't know, Headhunter, especially for bossing, is pretty much useless. I think the only thing this really gives me is the dexterity, since I need a dex for Sniper's Mark. But other than that, if I were to use a rare belt, I'll go into POB later, but currently with Headhunter I'm at 60 mil shaperDPS for bosses. If I were to put the rare belt on, I have one in POB. I'd have like 70 mil, I have like almost 2.2k int and almost 15k energy shield. But of course, if you're looking into doing 5-word maps and stuff with a lot of rare monsters, Headhunter will always beat that. That's why I just choose to keep using Headhunter and not bother with switching belts. Next up, I guess I'll go over my gear first. So the wand has tier 1 lightning damage flat, the lightning damage with attacks per 10 int, which is what the build is based around. And then I went for pen, crit chance quality, attack speed, crit multi. Now this is almost best in slot. There's one thing that could be better, and that is the attacks penetrate elemental resist. You want to get the mod that's 1% spell damage per 16 int. If I had that mod on this wand, it's pretty much the best in slot and probably even mirror tier in this league. I think I'd easily be mirrorable then, because it's pretty expensive to craft. I think even this one took me like 150 exalts or more to craft, so and I decided to go for pen since the spell damage per int mod is, there's two ways to go about it. I won't go too in depth with the influence way, but that was the way I was planning to do it. The other way, which I can still do on this wand, is just if I remove the crafted mods, craft a random suffix, and then just add caster, and then remove add caster until you get it. And now it's very rare, so it would take me about like 300 crafts or something like that, so I'm not gonna go and do that. But there is a way to do that, but this one is still really strong. I think it's one of the strongest ones in the game at the moment. There's some people I think who have 12% pen instead of my 9%, and then the same other mods, but I'm not sure if that tier 1 lightning damage, because the easy way to craft is using essence lightning damage, but that's less damage than this. Next, the gloves. So now a lot of people who play Instacker, they go for like 7 or 8 link gloves with like socketed gems are supported by level 20 slower proj, by level 20 faster proj, like stuff like that. Now with my level of investment, I don't need that, since my kinetic blast, even on a 4 link, will kill any map. I mean, even my tooltip is almost 500k, and that's just tooltip, right? So it's a lot more damage than that. And the gems in here aren't even leveled fully. So I choose to not do that and rather go for the gloves that are strong overall, that would also buff my power siphon. So what I went for is Abyssal Socket, Int, avoid ailment, since I also went for ailment immunity, which most people don't do. How I get it is 25 here, 25 on the helm, and then I have 50% on the boots, so I'm ailment immune all the time. And then for the prefixes, so I went for elevated intimidate mode. Now normally it's only 10% to intimidate for 4 seconds on hit, but elevated makes it 100%, so I have perma intimidate as well. And then I have tier 1% ES, but only tier 5 flat ES. Now I kind of need to recraft these gloves to get flat ES to tier 1 as well, but I haven't really bothered since there's a lot of remove add defenses for that. So that's the gloves for now. Next up, the amulet. So this is best in slot. I think it's currently the only one as well. I put it up for mirror service, so if anyone's interested, let me know. But I'm probably gonna sell off the build pretty soon, so probably won't be for too long. So the mods you want on here is tier 1 wed, damage per 15 int, damage pen. You want the lightning pen since 10%. Percent attributes, percent int, and crit multi, all tier 1, of course. Now the base, I got strength and int. The base you'd ideally want for most people is probably dex and int. But since I think most people will be using Headhunter, and if you do use Headhunter, you don't need the dex. So it's pretty much the best anyway. And then tranquility for the enchant, of course. Now most people with the amulet, they instead of wed, they have like ES or something, or they have like the other pen, which I think is 6 or 7% pen, and I did POB it, and the wed is a lot more damage than the older pen, since you get so much pen on this build from so many different sources, that just the percent damage ended up being better. So the amulet, now the rings. Say first this ring, as you notice, this is 7 mod ring. Now I think this was fixed or is getting fixed, I'm not quite sure. But I think Bex even said something about existing items getting touched as well, so I might lose the percent increased damage on this ring. I'm not quite sure how they're doing that yet. But the way you made this, so you went for the cogwart rings, which is from Heist, and the implicit on these normally is -1 prefix and +1 suffix. Now what you could do is, first of all, you need a normal ring. You'd craft all your suffixes. So I got essence int and tier 1 all res. which as you can see is already a big investment because that's a lot of remove add, lightning, fire, cold, stuff like that to get the resist. And then you want one prefix and you want to put your crafted mod on there, which is percent damage. At that point you would synthesize the item, which with this one I got extremely lucky since I got all attributes from the implicit. And then after that you can augment your last prefix. At that point you can't touch your suffixes or crafted mod anymore, but you can still remove add on your prefixes. So I did remove add to get tier 1 ES. Now I could still do some remove add attacks to get the wed to tier 1. I just haven't bothered with it since it's a pretty small upgrade. And then the other ring, now this implicit is absolutely insane. I managed to snipe this. It's flat int and percent int on the implicit. The only issue with it is it's an item level 61, so I had to improvise a bit. So with essences, I can easily guarantee the 58 int, of course. After that, tier 1 Alres actually is only item level 60 required, so I can still get that. And that was enough for me to cap my resistances perfectly. Then the accuracy is tier 2, which also was enough for me to cap my hit chance to 100%. And then on the prefixes, percent damage, crafted of course. And then I went for tier 2 wed and tier 3 flat yes, which is the highest you can get on this item level, which is definitely fine. I didn't mind giving up a little bit of wed and yes for this insane implicit, so it's definitely insane purchase there. Next, the body, so it's pretty much just, oh, did not want to turn it off. So it's just energy shield, essence int, percent int, and then 6% attributes. Managed to get 700 DS, which is pretty good. You can definitely get a little bit higher, but on the slam I hit tier 3 hybrid. Of course you can get triple tier 1, but it's gonna cost a bit more, especially if you want 6 white sockets as well. The helm, another one that's not super min-maxed. Now you do want the enchant power siphon fires 2 additional proj, and the suffixes. I have tier 2 int, tier 1 on helms is 56 to 60, so I have 55 here. And then I've elevated percent int, which goes to 12%. Then you have the avoid ailment for my ailment immunity, and then I have tier 1, tier 1, tier 4. I hit tier 4 on the percent slam. I crafted this helmet pretty fast, so I thought I'd use it for a while and maybe make a better one, which I actually did. So I got this one, which is tier 1 int. It has tier 1%, tier 1 flat, and then tier 2 hybrid. Of course, it's not fully crafted since I need to get percent int and the avoid elements, which wouldn't be too hard to get at this point. The only issue with this helm is, of course, it doesn't have the enchant. I was gonna pay someone to run lab with it to get the enchant, but it's extremely expensive and it could take quite a long time. And then on top of that, it's only 20 quality. Now you can get 28 still on this, but you couldn't get 30. And for my OCD, I want 30 on all items. So I decided to just stick with this one for now. Next up, I think the boots I haven't gone over. So this again is a piece that might be mirrored here. Not quite sure. I definitely did spend pretty much a mirror on it. It's double elevated with tailwind, avoid ailments, triple sorry, and then the pierce is also elevated. So it's also perfect divined, which divining this was an absolute nightmare. It took me like so many randomizers to get everything perfect. So with this, this is how you get the avoid ailments pretty easy. So you get 50% on the boots from elevated, 25-25. Then pierce. Now before you could only get 2 pierce. Now you can get 5 with the elevated one. You want tier 1 ES. You want flat ES because it gives more than percent. I also want move speed, of course, and then the tailwind with the effect. Now it has an open suffix. Now technically you could craft this with int, but that's only in theory. I don't think anyone will make these pair of boots with uncrafted int. And the other thing is, most people will need resist unless you have insane gear like me, so that's why I left the open suffix, since I was using resist on this beforehand to cap my resist. But since now I have capped resistance even without it, I could just craft the int on here and get a little bit of extra damage there. Not sure if I went over the shield, but it's pretty much just Azir's reflection. I mean, it's pretty insane shield. 60 int, up to 30 all res, quite a decent amount, 260 ES almost. Curse effect, and of course a big one, unaffected by curses. So this build is not only ailment immune but also curse immune. That's pretty good defensively there as well. I think I went over everything. I mean, Headhunter, pretty straightforward. Like I said, you can get a better belt. You can easily with heist even get the percent int belt. and just craft those. It's pretty cheap to even craft a good rare belt for this build. The flasks, so Alchemist, Quicksilver, Adrenaline, pretty straightforward. Gonna go fast. Bold Fate, you want to get a really good roll on this, and you don't use a Diamond Flask, and with just the Bold Fate you'll be crit capped on Assassin at least. Cinder's Follow, very insane for mapping. You get Onslaught, you get all the recover, damage taken, movement speed, I mean everything you really want. Wise Oak, since my resist again are perfectly capped. So what that means on a Wise Oak is that you get for all 3 elements. So I have 15% pen for each element, and then I also take 10% reduced damage for each element. So it's very strong offensively and defensively. And then the last flask, Ezreal's Promise. Now technically on this build you could use a Dying Sun as well, which gives you 2 extra proj. Now for me actually Dying Sun with 21, with how many proj I have, I mean I have 15 projectiles already. Dying Sun actually lose damage, since Dying Sun also makes me not able to use Wise Oak. That's why I dropped the Dying Sun, since I have more than enough proj, since adding projectiles with barrage support also gives you an attack speed penalty, which for me at this point adding more proj than this starts netting me damage loss actually. So that's why I didn't go for Dying Sun. And then the last flask, Ezreal's Promise. You just want the 50% of elemental extra chaos for some more damage. You could also go defensive with a Roomies or something like that, but I didn't really need it. Lastly, the jewels left and the skill tree. So jewels, attack speed, crit multi, attack speed if they'll crit, fire damage and flat DS. Now I specifically went for fire damage on this, since as you can see here I have a little bit of fire damage. Now as long as you crit, you will always deal the ailment, so as long as I crit, enemies will always be ignited, which makes them take 10% more damage, which is a more multiplier for the Cinder's Follow, so you want to get fire damage somewhere. The rest of the 3, it's pretty generic for Instacker, most people have this setup. Now it depends on your ascendancy. Now quickly about the ascendancies, since a lot of people are playing this build on Occultist this league, or Deadeye, or Assassin, even Scion, I think there's a few people. Now I don't know which one is the strongest, I've only played Assassin. Assassin did lose mainly movement speed, so it still has a lot of damage, and also still has elusive, which is really strong. So I guess it's up to you, preference choice. I don't think anyone knows what the strongest is, since I don't think there's anyone who's played all the ascendancies, but that's up to you. So as for the passives, now I have Thread of Hope here, which most people will have since it's insanely strong in this area for an Instacker. And I also got Corrupted Blood here, since I didn't want to get Corrupted Blood on some rare jewel and having to use a bad jewel, so the cheapest way was to get it on Thread of Hope, which is corrupting about 20 of these with a perfect -10 roll. I finally got it, which is not too bad, since I could have gone a lot more than that to get this. Another unique jewel here, Transcendent Flesh, gives you 56 crit multi, which is very strong to get in this location, for all the builds that is. Next, so this is a pretty insane jewel, triple attack speed, crit multi, and then I also have crit multi on the implicit from Synthesize. I think this one's the same, 5, 6, 8% attack speed. These are perfectly divined, this one isn't. I think I'm missing one crit multi on here. Next, I guess I'll go over this rare jewel as well, so triple attack speed again, crit multi. This one has int and ES on the implicit, which this implicit isn't even perfectly blessed, so yikes. And then I have attack speed, ES, int, and crit multi. I was still divining some of the jewels, so that's why they're not all perfect yet. I think the last one here, triple attack speed and an all res, since I needed an all res somewhere to get my resist. So as you can see, attack speed is the best way to scale your damage usually, so all my jewels are almost triple attack speed. And now the Watcher's Eye, I went for mana as extra ES with clarity and damage pen. As you can see, this gives me about 1000 ES, a bit more even. Now you could go for double damage Watchers, but I didn't mind getting some extra ES instead, since my damage is absolutely fine. Cluster Jewels, so I also went for tier 1 int on these with the triple notables, both of them, so it's pretty insane there. And I got Fuel the Flight for Mana Leech, Veteran Defender, Martial Prowess, so you always want Veteran Defender and Martial Prowess, and then Mana Leech. Now here you could get Feed the Fury for Life Leech, but I got Life Leech somewhere else, so I went for Advanced Guard, just some extra movement speed to further neglect the movement speed loss from Assassin, and I also got some damage on here. And I have one small cluster with tier 1 int, tier 1 flat yes, and the resist I needed to cap. So as you can see these nodes now, the best cluster, you want the int, you want the flat ES, and then instead of the evasion, you want the 35% increased effect given. But it's insanely difficult to roll a jewel like that. I don't think there's a single one yet on the market even. I've been whooping him since the start. That will be it for the skill tree. Now quickly over the gems, since this video is already dragging out quite a long time. Awaken Hex Touch, Ally Weakness with Conviction. Make sure you have a level 5 Awaken Hex Touch, since you need level 5 to be able to apply a second curse. Since our main curse is Sniper's Mark, and then if you have the Hex, you can use Ally Weakness, which actually gives the same amount of all res with level 2120 compared to Collectivity, so I thought I'd just use this instead. Wave Conviction also gives exposure. Make sure you have lightning damage, is the most damage on here from your elements, so you get lightning exposure. Then Enlighten, Precision, 21 Precision, 21 Val Discipline, 21 Red for our auras. We also have a level 1 Clarity over here. This is just for the Watcher's Eye. If you don't have a Watcher's Clarity, just drop this. Dash and normal second wind, so you have 3 charges of the dash. Cast on damage taken, Mortal Call, just defensive here. And then our 4 link KB for mapping, so KB, GMP, Awakened, elemental damage for attacks, and damage for full life. Since you're CI, you're always on full life. If you're not, you're dead. So this is pretty much the best damage always for CI builds. We're using it here as well for a single target. Awakened Ally Focus, Awakened Wed, Awakened Added Lightning. We got a 623 here, cost me like 14 exalts or something. I was upgrading my gems still, and I still need to Val these, double corrupt them. Then Barrage Support, and Anomalous Power Siphon. Now, Anomalous Power Siphon is also very expensive, since 20 quality on this gives you an extra projectile, which is absolutely insane. Now, Power Siphon also has Cooling Strike built in, so it's kind of like a 10% more damage right there as well. That's pretty much the build. I hope you enjoyed it. I will leave you with a Maven kill and an Awakener or something like that, so you can see the single target. Now, how much have I spent on the build so far? I'm not quite sure. I have a notepad where I've noted down most of like my crafting, the steps and stuff, and how much I've spent. Now, I haven't added everything up, but if I had to guess, it's probably around 6 mirrors. I'd say maybe even above that, since I even self-crafted quite a lot of self-farmed a lot of crafts even and stuff like that. So to see. Now, obviously you don't need that much money invested for this build to be this strong. It's just, if you have the money, and I mean, I like making money, I also like spending money, and this is definitely a build you can spend a lot of money on. Now, since I've been playing Highlight Warrior for about 2 weeks, I think it's about time I start doing my challenges and look into for the next league. So I think I'll be mainly focusing on doing my challenges quickly, and then probably selling off the build. And I'm not sure if I'll do another build this league still, or maybe do some gambling sessions or some crafting sessions, but we'll have to see in the next video.
Returned tenfold. Space aligns. Behold my collection.
I will have what I want. It will not be an escape.
Resistance will be punished. The living toy must enjoy our contests.